What's up, guys? My name is Steven Woodani, 5 Tool Sports Science. I'm going to do a breakdown of Nicholas Long here. If you guys want to break down, go ahead and send it into my Instagram at Steven Woodani. And a side view video like this, so turn your phone this way and film it so I can get full screen capture here, and I can do a breakdown for you as well. So let's get started with Nick. All right, Nick, let's see here. All right, initially, keeping that weight inside leg lift. So he's keeping his weight inside, that's good. You want to see how he's going to shift and load that weight down the mound, how he's going to ride his momentum down the mound here into his load. So that's, a decent job. He's gained a little bit of ground here from leg lift on the way down. So you've done a pretty good job. I would say you could probably load into more flexion of that hip. You could basically just be lowering your center of gravity, essentially just getting yourself into that lower loaded position. More hip flexion, more knee flexion. So this would be, hip flexion here, knee flexion, ankle flexion. You're basically just loading that lower half to be able to, explode and drive and accelerate yourself out of that position. So think of it like when you're doing a vertical jump here. In a vertical jump, you're going to load into that flexion, then you power into extension, right? So you're pushing through the ground to power yourself out. It's the same thing, you're just doing it in a different plane. So you're loading that on a single leg, you're loading into your hip flexion, you're loading into your knee flexion, you're loading into your ankle flexion to be able to set up that load, be able to accelerate yourself down the mound. All right, let's see what you do from here. All right, I can't really tell. It's like, yeah, you're just going to kind of start rotating in here. So you get a little bit of extension, but it's really more of like a rotational drive. You're coming off the mound, so you do get a little bit of extension. The reason I say that is because when you hit front foot strike, let's see, I'm trying to get you to stop on it. Hey, come on, one more frame. Oh, come on. All right, there we go, right here. You're still pretty separated. Your pelvis is powered open, all right? And your shoulders are back. So you've created a decent amount of hip to shoulder separation here. All right, but what happens is when your back leg is more rotational than getting, more of that linear power out of it, you're gonna kind of see what follows with the trunk. So when you watch your trunk rotate here, you're kind of pulling this glove side, all right, and the trunk just becomes more rotational than linear. So you're really just going through that rotation because it's following what your back hip is basically doing. So if you're a better rotator than you are at creating that linear energy, that linear drive off of the mound, your trunk is going to respond by being more rotational and not getting really that good forward trunk tilts. So let's go into that pitch release here. There we go. So it's decent, decent forward trunk tilts, but really you just went from that, there's foot strike, rotate, and one more frame, ball's gone. So it was really just more of that rotational trunk, a little bit of forward trunk tilt, but that's really because you're not creating that much linear energy off of this back leg. You rotated really well, so I imagine you have really great hips, phenomenal hip internal rotation. All of that stuff. It just looks like you need a little bit more power out of that back leg. So you spin and you separate it really well so you can sequence your energy. You're sequencing the pelvis, the trunk, and the arm correctly, but you're really missing a lot of that linear energy. You're really good at the rotational, missing a lot of that linear power. The other big thing is going to be your front leg. So you really have a soft landing on that front leg. There's not, a lot of extension coming out of this front leg. That's going to be redirecting that energy back into the trunk. That's what's also going to help you get more forward trunk tilt. So as you can get this front leg more extended, you're going to create more of this forward trunk tilt, which is really just that energy being pushed from the ground, okay, back up into the trunk, which then can be launched out through the arm. So you just hold flexion. You don't get any extension through it. When we go to the pitch release, let's see where you're at. More, there we go. You're just holding that bent front leg position. So, decent forward trunk tilt, not great. And you're really just holding that bent forward position. The other thing that I see is going to be, all right, here, maybe slightly dragging that arm, So what happens is this is your scapular plane, basically your shoulder line here. All right, and what can happen is this arm can get caught behind that, and you're dragging this. This can be really hard at the front of the shoulder. This can be really hard for the UCL, so that's something injury-wise to look out for. Again, that comes from that rotational back leg. When you rotate that back leg, the trunk is just wanting to follow that. So that spinning of that back hip gets the pelvis open, but then your trunk is just mainly receiving that angular velocity and not so much of that linear velocity. So it's just gonna follow it. So it starts to pull that glove side to come around, and this arm gets caught behind and it starts dragging. So that can be really hard. It can just create a lot of torques in the elbow, create a lot of torques at the front of that shoulder, and it can be, you know, something that you would look out for injury-wise. All right, then when we hit maximum external rotation, here, this looks like your, you know, here is your maximum external rotation. I think you could get a little bit more maximum external rotation. That's not terrible, but I think you got a little bit more in you. Like if we were to do a motion capture, like with our software here, we would be able to see exactly how much external rotation that you're getting. And typically we want to see about 180 degrees of external rotation. That's not 180 degrees of external rotation. So I think you could have a little bit of room to improve that external rotation. All in all, I think the biggest takeaways are, you know, more power out of that back leg. I think you already do a really great job of sequencing. You're one of those athletes that I think you really just need to improve a lot more power, become a better overall athlete. You know, look at things like, you know, vertical jump, rotational power, broad jump, lateral broad jumps, really get an understanding of how you produce force, and keep measuring that to see if you're becoming a better athlete. Because you're already a pretty big dude, you got good size, but I think you can just get more explosive, especially through that lower half, through the back leg, creating more linear energy out of that back leg drive. And then getting more front leg extension from that front leg as well, and really firming up that front side when you hit front push strike. Up the chain, I think, yeah, we said, like getting a little bit more external rotation in the throwing arm. Not much, you're already, you know, pretty good there, but you can get more there. And then just the forward trunk tilt, which is really a product of what your lower half is doing. So if you can create more linear energy from your back leg drive, and you can create more front leg extension from your front leg, that should really help you get not only you know, the angular velocity of your trunk, which you already do really well, but then you're going to start improving that linear velocity of your trunk, getting more forward trunk tilts. And then even with getting more forward trunk tilts, theoretically that'll help you get a little bit more thoracic extension, allow your arm to lay back into more external rotation as well. So for you, man, yeah, I think the biggest takeaway is just build more power, become a better athlete, specifically in that lower half, more leg power in the back leg drive, more leg power in the front leg, a little bit more external rotation, a little bit more forward trunk tilts. But I really do like your mechanics. You actually have, you know, a pretty good set of mechanics here. It can just be optimized with more horsepower through it. So yeah, I think those are the biggest takeaways for you, Nick. And if you guys want any mechanical breakdowns for yourself, go ahead and send me in some video, and I will do one for you guys. All right, have a good one.